we get started, please? We got a lot to do today. Can everybody stand, please? Nick, you're going to lead us in singing. Right? You're such a good guy. Kathy's going to lead us in singing.
What are we singing today?
God bless America.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Do you want to write that down?
Well, we're going to pledge first.
Okay.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Go ahead.
God bless America, land where I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yes.
You made everybody else sound better today. Not that they don't sound better all the time.
Nice recovery.
Oh, good morning, John. We have John online this morning.
John Kennedy.
Barb, are you going to do?
Ken has returned.
Oh, Ken, I'm sorry.
Are you prepared, Ken, or?
I did not, because I thought you were still doing it.
Oh, no, well, see, I thought you were taking over, so. Besides, I'm not very good inspiration today. I had a horrible day of bowling, so you don't.
Get back in the groove next time, Barbara.
an inspiration because she had a great day of bowling.
Oh.
And I was not bowling against her today, so.
I'm inspired just by seeing a good turnout again today.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to see everybody. Kathy's back. We have no guests today. We'll introduce our speaker later. And I think we should start with our speaker. All right. I mean, Bill, you have anything?
No, I didn't bring any history.
Okay. All right. All right. And John's here. So,
Yep.
All right. We'll start with
All right.
Welcome everyone to our meeting here today. I have Andy from Book and Puppet, who owns a bookstore in downtown Easton. But I will let Andy introduce himself. I think he's the best at that, and he'll be talking about the annual Easton Book Festival. If you're not already aware of it, it's really something good to put on your calendars and plan on attending. And talking a little bit more about being an independent bookseller in Easton, in the space in Easton. So thanks for being here, Andy.
Thank you for inviting me. My name is Andy Laties. My wife and I opened Book and Puppet Company across from the State Theater about 5 years ago, so in Central Easton, and we moved to the location, the old Bixler's store next to Crayola 2 years ago. So that's where we're running our bookstore, and we call it Book and Puppet Company because we have a puppet theater. My wife is the puppeteer, and I am the MC. And we also sell a lot of puppets. The store is about half a children's bookstore and half for adults. And that is because I've been a children's bookseller my whole career. I opened my first children's bookstore in 1985 in Chicago. And I've been running bookstores ever since. I've now had a number of bookstores. Before I came here, I was running the Bank Street bookstore on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. I opened the store at the Eric Carr Museum in Western Massachusetts. That's the person who wrote The Very Hungry Caterpillar. He was my boss for 10 years. And before that, I opened the store at Chicago Children's Museum on Navy Pier in Chicago. And before that, I opened the children's bookstore. So it's 37 years now that I've been running children's bookstores. But again, this bookstore is about half for adults. So when we moved out to Easton, 2017, we had been living in Hackensack when I was working in Manhattan. One of the things that I chatted about with Bob Freeman, our representative, during our grand opening or our ribbon cutting celebrations. It seems like Easton could be a good place for a book festival. And he said, that's what I've been saying for 30 years. So I said, well, I'm thinking maybe you call it something like the Easton Literature Festival. And he said, Easton Book Festival. So I said, okay, you named it. So our name is given to us by Bob Freeman. We ran our first Easton Book Festival about 2 years after that conversation. And this is the Easton Irregulars feature issue on the Easton Book Festival. So this is 2019. And we had 200 authors and it ran for one weekend. And I think we got a PowerPoint show that kind of summarizes what we did. We had 28 venues, which means we went to the Siegel Museum and the Nature Center and the Easton Public Library, the Easton Community Center. This is a presentation about that festival. So this is now 2.5 years ago.
All right.
Which I put together here. You can just kind of sort of page through.
It worked on my big computer. This one here is hanging up with it for some reason. Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
that's
the logo with the 8 pointed stars coming out of the book. So this photo is from Nurture Nature Center, and that was a panel discussion. Up front are 6 authors or 5 authors who had written books that related to the environment. And that's Rachel Hogan, the director of the Nurture Nature Center, doing the introduction. Can advance. This is from the upstairs of the Quadrant on North 3rd Street, where Jen's son works at the Quadrant. Yeah, but that's a bookstore, and that's Art Kay, a poet from New York, giving a reading. We had 200 authors, and about 70 of the authors came in from New York, and others came in from around the country, and about half of them were local authors. As we worked extensively with the Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group, who themselves actually gave a whole series of educational programs at the Northampton Community College location in Easton. Remember, they took over that space for a couple of years. But anyway, this took place upstairs at the Quadrant.
We got to get you a clicker.
Yeah. Well, you might. So 150 programs for adults. That's Beth Seach in the center there. Okay, this is Wade and Cheryl Hudson signing books. That was in the gallery of the State Theater. The State Theater has an art gallery. Mm-hmm. So we have a number of programs at the State Theater. This also is the State Theater Gallery. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure what the theme was there. I forgot. This took place at the Siegel Museum. Now, we took over the entire Siegel Museum for the weekend, and we had authored programs going on in several venues simultaneously. And this was a panel discussion on the topic of immigration. And you will see that to the right there, that panelist, does anybody know who that is? Ben Franklin. And that's actor Christopher Black, who's one of the leaders, founder of the Bachman family, the Bachman Players. Yes. And he participated in this panel discussion discussing current immigration issues, and he contributed Ben Franklin's opinions about immigration to Pennsylvania in the 1700s. And Benjamin Franklin actually wrote letters and essays on the topic of the question of, is it okay that Germans are immigrating to Pennsylvania? And he felt that Germans have a lot to contribute to Pennsylvania, and they should be allowed to and shouldn't be discriminated against. So he was a pro-immigration voice on that panel discussion. It's just terrific. All right, this is another, somebody expressing a heartfelt opinion, and I think that took place at the Siegel Museum. I'm not sure what the panel session was about. That's Chuck Dickerson at the front. So we brought authors into schools. In every one of the Easton elementary schools and the middle schools got an author. So we brought authors into Cheston, Forks, March, Palmer, Paxnosa, Shawnee, Tracy, and also Wilson Borough and the Wilson area intermediate schools. And we did not charge the schools for these visits. And so that was a big part of our program. We wanted to get to make sure that the children participated in the show, in the festival, and we didn't know whether parents of all kids around Easton would actually bring their kids down to the public children's programming on the weekend. So we went to them. And that's on the right, you could see actually both of these pictures, Wade and Cheryl Hudson. I think on the left, they are at March School, and the right, they are at the middle school. So we brought the Big Nazo Puppet Theater down from Rhode Island, from Providence, Rhode Island. Those monsters are body puppets. Now that's me at the left, just above one of the heads. You can see me waving there. But I also I was inside one of those puppets the following day during the Easton Phillipsburg Halloween parade. I came marching across in a squid costume. But those guys were just terrific. I love them so much. And I think the next shot.
I think being in a squid costume because of using their ink.
Oh, yes.
To publish.
Oh, I didn't think of that. That's a good one. Now to the right there is my wife, Rebecca Migdal, and she is our store's puppeteer. In fact, that photograph is inside a Book and Puppet Company. And you can see that she's holding up a zombie puppet and greeting children who are in Halloween costumes. So this was the weekend just before Halloween when we were running the festival. Okay, now to the upper left there, that man is the founder of the Big Nazo Puppet Theater, and he was running a workshop, puppet making workshop at the Easton Community Center. So again, we really tried to get out into the community. So this is the West Ward, so as to make sure that we were as accessible as we could be to everybody. We didn't only run things downtown. Okay, so Rebecca Price Janney is the author to the left there, and she is having her novels for Easton at the Forks novel enacted by the Bachman Players. And this took place in the Bachman House Tavern. And again, these are all free public events. So we were in 28 venues running events this weekend. You can go to the next. Okay, this, I can't remember the name of that artist, but this is a children's program that took place at the Easton Public Market in the kids zone at the back of the Easton Public Market. So we had a whole series for kids in both days, Saturday and Sunday at the Easton Public Market, as well as at the library, as well as at Book and Puppet Company. So we had a lot of children's programs, public children's program. And then the next one. Okay, now this is a bookmaking workshop that took place in the IF Museum. And we had Esther K. Smith, who is a really well-known artist's bookmaker from Brooklyn, who came in with her husband, whose name I've forgotten, and they ran bookmaking workshops we had them at the Easton Intermediate, at the Wilson Intermediate School, and then we had them at the Easton Community Center, and we also had them at the IF Gallery. This is the Drag Queen Story Hour. This was just fabulous. This is also inside of Book and Puppet Company on Center Square next to Crayola. This is a poetry reading that was taking place. This is Kevin's friend.
Oh my gosh, I see Kevin. Okay.
Yeah, there's Kevin, Jan's husband, at the far right there, with his hand to his chin, and I think it's Edmund Rosta.
Yes, it's Edmund Ramon.
Ramon, okay. So this is the Garden of Connections Gallery, where they have all kinds of programs out there, but they were one of the participants. And okay, this is a concert that took place in the ballroom of the State Theater. So I don't know if any of you have been there, but above the theater itself, there's the ballroom where they sometimes have galas and so forth. And Yvonne, that's the first name. Yeah, I forgot the last name. Okay, to the right there is Nancy Werteen, who's WFMZ Channel 13.
Yep.
And the center is Melba Tolliver, who is a famous New York City TV journalist. She actually broke the color bar. She was the first African-American anchor woman in the country in 1967. And she was an anchor woman and interviewer on New York TV until the 90s. And she lives in Martins Creek now. And this is the first year of the festival. The second year, Melba became the chair of the festival. All right, and here's Eric Gonzalez, or Eric Velasquez, and he is showing his art to kids. This was inside of the Easton Public Market. And he also visited a number of the schools on the Friday before this. So he was at March School at the same time that Wade and Cheryl were at March School. And okay, we should be able to see I've forgotten his name, but this is a local author who specializes in cocktails, the history of cocktails. And his book is The Complete History of Presidential Drinking, Mint Juleps with Teddy Roosevelt. You can sort of see it there. And to the right, Drinking with Republicans. He's a very entertaining presenter. And this took place at Two Rivers on the second floor there. So it was a Sunday afternoon. Yeah. And we are back at Nurture Nature Center here. I'm not sure what the program was. But anyway, that was our first year. We were very ambitious. And then a couple months later, COVID hit, and we ran our second year entirely online. I'm just sitting down again. We ran our second year, 2020, entirely online. We had 150 programs. And we had panel discussions where, as I was just talking with Jen, we were able to have participants from around the world on a single panel. It was really something. We had a panel about sustainable farming with a participant from Australia and a participant from Vermont and some local people as well. And we had an art show where run by Jackie Lima, who lives in Easton, and she got 11 artists from around the country to submit on a particular theme, and then they all came on to the Zoom together and it was open to the public, so people could watch it either using the Zoom link, or they could watch it on Facebook. And the great thing about that was that everything that we did during the program in 2020 was recorded, because everything on Zoom can be recorded, and we posted it onto YouTube, and so the whole thing is recorded. The first year, the one I was just showing you, we didn't have any films of it. We don't have, we have some photographs, but the second year we had everything on film, and the third year, 2021, was a hybrid program. We ran programs at the new Lafayette College bookstore has a green space next to it, and we had poetry readings there outside, and then Book and Puppet Company at Center Square, we ran programs outside there. So we ran outdoor programming, and we also ran online programming. And this year, I think that we've concluded that we're once again going to run a hybrid program, that there's, there are benefits to being able to use Zoom, because you can get these kinds of, get people together that you can't otherwise assemble. And it's more accessible, and people can stay home and participate, and then you've got the recordings. But we would like to do an in-person festival again. I don't know to what, we don't know. We don't know to what degree we'll be able to go back to what we did in 2019. What do you think? How here we are sitting in this room without masks, but they just implemented a mask mandate in Philadelphia. So next October, we're always trying to look into the future, and I don't know what we should do. I don't think we go back out to 28 venues. Last year we had 2 venues as well as the online, so we're kind of having trouble making up our minds. But that is the Easton Book Festival, and we would like to get back to what we did in 2019, but we've been hamstrung for the last couple of years.
Andy, if you're going to talk about expanding it with Zoom and possibly an audience situation, you might want to talk to Shelley at the State Theater, because you could talk about using the theater seats and putting the Zoom up on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
And they could also probably put it in the gallery. They could put a screen up there too. But
yeah, so you combine, you have the yeah, we have done that.
yeah, you could have live people sitting there. You could have people on the stage,
good idea.
Cameras.
Yeah.
There's going to be some cost involved, obviously.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Andy, I was just curious, I might have missed it. What attracted you to Easton? Why are you in Easton?
Well, my wife's best friend moved here in 2001. So we had been coming out to Easton every year. I was living, again, as I mentioned, I moved around the country. So I was living in Hackensack, and I needed to leave the store that I was at, Bank Street Bookstore. There was there was a battle inside of the college about whether to keep it open. So I left, and I knew I wanted to open another bookstore, and we started hunting around looking for a place to move. And we ended up moving here, I would say largely because we already had been coming here. So we kind of knew what it was like.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking with you talking about all the places you were, you just couldn't keep a job someplace.
Yeah. Well, the bookstore business, the independent bookstore career is not a stable career.
Yeah.
And I came up with the language of journeyman. That I'm a journeyman bookseller, and this bookstore is, I actually have lost count. I've either, depending on how you count, this is either my 6th bookstore or my 11th bookstore. I have opened and operated many bookstores in my career, and I've gotten kicked around a lot. I've had to move, I've had to change markets, and every place I go, I try to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
And now Easton Book Festival is a nonprofit. We actually spun this off into a separate entity. But I've been running programs out of my bookstores my whole life. It's kind of my trademark. So at the Bank Street Bookstore, for instance, I was running 900 programs a year, which means 3 a day. And in this store, I've been running 600 programs a year, which means every day I'm running something. It's a story hour or a story hour in the puppet show. Some days I'm running 4 things, some days I run 3 things. So if you come to our store on a Saturday, we have a puppet show at 10 o'clock, puppet show at 11 o'clock, and another one at 1 o'clock, and we often have an author event at 2 o'clock. So we're always doing something. And I think that that's the only way that independent bookstores can survive nowadays, because you can't just sit there and wait for people to come buy a book from you. And what's more, I don't think that's very interesting. As if, I'm not particularly interested in just sitting in my store and waiting for people to walk in the door. So I've been running programs like this my whole life.
Would you say the bulk of your customers buying books are adults or children?
Well, you mean, well, of course, it's,
Children's books or adult books?
yeah. This store is probably 60-40, children to adult. My previous stores have all been children's bookstores. So I'm a specialist. I'm a children, I've been in children's book selling my whole career. But when we came out to Easton in 2017, there was no general bookstore. Well, there's Quadrant, which is a used bookstore, but there was no new trade bookstore in Easton. There's the Barnes and Noble out at the mall, and we thought that we would try catering to the adults as well. And since then, it's been 5 years now since we opened. So we've gradually grown the inventory for adults based on what people seem to want. So we actually have quite a large inventory for adults now.
Where are you drawing from in terms of your clientele?
Well, of course, since we moved to being right next to Crayola Museum, we're now benefiting from the people that come into the Crayola Museum. So it's a pretty wide radius. People show up at our store that come from Virginia, or they come from Ohio. I mean, Crayola has dedicated attendees who drive 2 hours with their kids a couple times a year. And they come into that parking lot on Pine Street and they enter through the back door, and some of them just come and go. They don't look at Easton at all. They only come to Crayola. But some of them do come out, and they look around. And so that is a change from when we were just a block away, when we were up across from the State Theater. But we also have a lot of regular customers in this area. And in fact, during the pandemic, when we had to close the store, I started doing delivery, and many of our regular customers began ordering from us using our website. You can order any book from us. You go to our website, you can get any book in print, and we can get it in a couple days. And people were like, Jan, we're ordering from us intentionally, trying to help us. And it was amazing, the support that we got from our local customer base. And I was driving all over town making deliveries. So I had the really surprising experience of seeing where all my customers lived, of visiting them at their homes. And they lived all over the region. I was driving to Bethlehem, I drove to Allentown, I drove into New Jersey, I've gone around in Phillipsburg but especially in Easton. And I think I went to every neighborhood in Easton. And I saw where my customers lived. And they lived in, some of them lived in little apartments, some of them lived in housing developments, some of them lived in mansions, some of them I was really amazed at all the different neighborhoods. I would never have gone to all these neighborhoods. The answer to your question is I have actually visited many of my customers and they live all over the place, but mostly in this area. But again, we do have more customers now from out the state.
What kind of event that we would plan between your store and our Kiwanis Club that would benefit both of us? I mean, we're always looking for new things to do.
Well, you're very interested in children, right?
Yes.
Well, Jan arranged for us to do this pre-K Palooza, the preschool Palooza tour. We had 3 authors that went out to pre-K counts classrooms in the 3rd Street Alliance. That might be a good partnership.
Because Sarah is a member, they're a member of Easton Kiwanis, yeah.
Yeah, the 3rd Street Alliance is very close to our store, and we tried to get them to come out to the store to do an author event with us, but the preschools were very, very careful during the pandemic. But we also had an author go to the Forks Education Center and to the Children's Center at Spring Garden. So I would think that for Kiwanis to do a project with the Easton Book Festival to orient it around the preschools would be a good fit.
That was in 2019, and the author
Steve Savage?
Steve Savage, he's a children's author and illustrator. And
he's done maybe 50 books.
He was amazing. He went into the classroom, he showed people how to do drawings, he had kids come up and help him. He read a book, books were donated to the classrooms there. It was really, really nice. So it really benefited those kids in seeing the author and seeing how books are illustrated, and also then let parents know here's a really great activity that's free that you can partake in this weekend with your preschool, because there was preschool programming too. And I love that Andy was able to still offer programming for preschool classrooms via Zoom during the pandemic. So my organization helps support programming, but they're always looking. I mean, this book festival is a nonprofit. They're always looking for organizations to help support programming, especially for children in the area. So
yeah, the issue is paying an honorarium to the author.
Yeah.
There are a lot of authors who are presenting without charging us. Most of the authors are presenting without charging us, but we do need to pay some of the authors honorarium. So that's where we're trying to raise money. But I would definitely say that.
Following up on Neil's idea, if you had to choose a good author, what are you talking about dollar-wise for an honorarium? And what are you talking about a children's book would cost if we were to buy the books for all the kids that showed up? Just ballparkish numbers.
Well, it depends on whether they're traveling.
Okay.
For instance, last year we had Elizabeth Zunon do a Zoom presentation, and she charged us $150 to do a Zoom presentation. But if we had brought her in, it would have cost $1,000.
Oh,
because she has to take her whole day.
sure. Yeah.
And then she's got travel costs. And for Steve Savage, gosh, I think that we gave him $1,500. He's even much better known. We gave him $1,500, and he actually drove round trip from Brooklyn. We didn't have to put him up, but some of the other authors we put up. We actually put them up at the Clinton Holiday Inn, and we had to bus them around. And so it really varies. When you do have to pay an honorarium, it can cost $1,000, or your expenses can be $2,000 if they're traveling. Which is why it's great to do programming where you don't have to pay an honorarium. And this, 2 years ago, when the entire thing was on Zoom, we didn't pay a single honorarium. We had 150 authors and we paid no honoraria. because nobody was traveling. It wasn't a nuisance for anybody. We had Paul Zelinsky, who is a Caldecott Award-winning author who's done 100 books, and he's a personal friend, but I would not have been able to get him for free if it wasn't that he could do it from his study. He just set his computer up in his study, and we did this lovely program where he sang his book, The Wheels on the Bus, and moved the tabs, the pop-up tabs, and it was free. But he would have charged us a couple $1,000s if he had to actually, leave his home, come to Brooklyn, take a couple days. He's a very busy guy. We had to take him out to dinner, put him in a hotel. But then if you're gonna have this in-person experience that Jan was talking about, when we brought Steve Savage in, we did pay for it. It cost us a couple, it cost them $1,500, but those kids had that experience.
Seeing it live.
So it's it's a it's a balancing act.
No,
I'm very interested when we got an apartment out in Washington, in Olympia, to discover that there was an independent bookstore there, because I thought that they were gone from the country almost, unfortunately. But it's a lovely place, and I'm sure you would feel very comfortable there too. Have a nice ambiance, and it's a pleasure to go in there and browse amongst the books. And
Well,
other
independent
things that are in a
booksellers,
bookstore.
yeah, independent bookstores are created by individuals. Somebody has to say, gee, what do I want to do at this juncture in my life? And they have to come to that kind of conclusion that I would like to open a bookstore. This community needs to have a bookstore. My background, I was a teacher, whatever. There are people who have that feeling, who come to that conclusion every day. It's somebody says to themselves, "This is it could be me." And if that happens, then they start looking around for resources, and it turns out that it's a very collaborative field. People are very nice, and you can get support, and that's why people are opening bookstores. Last year, 172 independent bookstores opened in the United States, double from the year before. We thought those of us in the business thought that during the pandemic, there would be a collapse in the number of independent bookstores in this country. And there were almost 100 bookstores that closed, but there were also 100 bookstores that opened that year. It was net, we didn't lose any. And a lot of people during the pandemic did a reassessment of their lives and really asked themselves, what am I doing with my life? And some number of those people said, I want to, plant the flag, we need a bookstore here. And it's really wonderful. It's great when people do that. And I wrote a book about, trying to convince people to open bookstores. I wrote this book in 2005, and this is the second edition, which came out in 2011. So I'm a big advocate for people opening bookstores. Bookstores close, but they usually close. The truth is that they usually close because the person that is running them's life has shifted, and they no longer would like to be chained to a cash register and have the obligation. Maybe their health is declining, or the kids are people. Independent bookstore attracts the life of the bookseller, and so we always need to encourage people to open bookstores, because naturally bookstores are always closing. So it's a process. And as far as what communities happen to have an independent bookstore, like Olympia has a bookstore, you're lucky.
Yeah.
You're
It's a
lucky that
great
somebody's
resource,
doing it.
and it adds a sense of culture to a community. Bring people in that are interested in literature and read.
Well, the person that is running that bookstore is doing it because they want to do what you just said. They want to provide that to that community. And that person will do it for a certain amount of time, and hopefully someone else will do it. And but presumably, maybe someone was doing it 50 years ago and it was somebody else.
Very long-standing.
Yeah, sometimes, if communities are supportive, if individuals understand that they have a role in making sure that their bookstore is still there, then there's this kind of symbiotic relationship. The bookstore cannot survive if the community isn't self-aware about their role in ensuring that their bookstore is there. It's like all, like all kinds of community institutions. They need to have a self-conscious citizenry.
So being in the business as long as you've been, what's the prime time for an independent bookseller, like a store? You walk down the street like Charleston or someplace, everything's closed. The bars, and there'll be a bookstore open. People are milling around. Is there any, not children's books, but is there a prime time for people to wander into a bookstore?
Well, I have run bookstores in many different situations. Like I mentioned, I had a bookstore on Navy Pier in Chicago, which is it's like Disneyland. It's the biggest tourist attraction in Illinois. And we were open 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. And in the summers, we were open till midnight. And I had business at 11 o'clock at night on Saturday nights. I mean, the store could be crowded in the summer, really crowded. In Easton, when we opened, we tried long hours. I was open till 9 o'clock at night on Saturday nights, and we had puppet shows in the evenings, and so we were open about 65 hours a week. And there were a lot of hours where we had no customers at all, and I have much more limited hours now. Of course, the pandemic was closed down, but when we reopened, I just said, you know something, I got to be realistic. Easton is not, showing up during in all these hours. So I'm still open 7 days a week, but I'm usually open 1 to 5. I'm just open in the afternoon, except for on Saturdays. But I have changed my hours throughout my career. All my stores I'm constantly experimenting with different hours. So I don't think there's any one answer to what you just said, but I mean, my first store in Chicago was on Lincoln Avenue on the near north side of Chicago. We were on the same block as the Biograph Theater, which was the theater where John Dillinger was killed. We were on that block, and there were 4 other bookstores, and there were across from us was the folk club and the jazz club, and there were restaurants, and there was another movie theater, and we were open until 10 o'clock at night. For years, and we would be open till midnight, and that was a neighborhood location. But that's Chicago, Illinois, near the roadside of Chicago, Illinois. Population 2 million people. So
Andy, how does the downtown festivals that fill up people in downtown Easton, does it help for a bookstore?
Yeah.
Probably depends upon which kind of festival it is.
Yeah, no, I think we benefit from there being more people around.
Yeah.
And the location that we're in right now, which is on that the Crayola quadrant, we have tables. We can put tables out in front of the store so we can attract attention to ourselves. I have discount folks on tables. So yeah, anything that brings traffic around will benefit.
So if we were to work with you, would that be coordinated with Jan and you, possibilities that work?
Yeah. I'll coordinate with Andy, he'll let me know.
Okay, all right. I mean, you did such a great job with PBS 39.
Well, Andy and his wife were part of that. I
Okay.
didn't realize they were the ones with the puppet show
Oh, okay,
for the
okay.
Good Neighbor Day, so.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a great,
great.
we had a great time on it. I think the coordination of it, the PBS meeting, and then they tapped into different volunteers. It was really good.
Yeah. Any other questions? Jan, you had a question?
Suggestion. I was just talking, thinking about how we as a club could do something along with them. And maybe I don't know if you thought about engaging nonprofits that are geared towards children, but maybe to have a storybook village and to have them to create their own, tent or whatever, and whatever book that they would choose. You might have a theme for that year. But you could have them decorated. They could provide perhaps maybe an art or some.
You're talking about the children would decorate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
They
that.
could have an extended craft or something to go on, but we could have individuals there that would perhaps dress up in costume or however, just reading.
That sounds like fun.
Every books.
Yeah.
So that's something that we could all do.
Maybe in conjunction with the book festival, we could think of a club, what we can contribute in terms of doing something like that. that's something that Andy
Yeah,
would
yeah.
be able-
Well, we've got space, on the quadrant in front of the
So
store.
that's what I was thinking, and
Yeah,
then, the kids, because the kids will come up to, they want to hear an author, but they would also want to hear Jan.
Mhm.
Waltz. And
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, there could be like a Kiwanis tent. There's an activity there. Yeah, well, we get the costumes, that's right.
Somebody could be Pete the Cat, which is really
Oh.
right now, right?
That's
I'm
right.
voluntold that James there.
Sue's gonna bring her African drums.
Yeah.
Well, they would come to that.
Well, thank you. This has been extremely interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Generated a lot of interest in what you do.
All you do. Thank you, Jan, for inviting me.
No, I'm so glad to be here. And if you need a book, Andy will order for you. And just, if you haven't had a chance to go to his bookstore, please check it out. It's a great space. It's a great site.
And we have our newsletter people here that will include your presentation today in the newsletter and information about your story.
And if you have a few minutes before you go, I have a couple other questions for the newsletter. And,
Great.
And you're going to be featured in it, your business.
What does a puppet show look like? Is there a common theme? Is there a popular theme? Is there
Well, we do a fractured fables puppet show, which means that we use traditional stories and we take suggestions from the kids, and we update it and we mix it up. And if the kids know the Three Billy Goats Gruff already, then we can play around with that and have an octopus that's causing trouble for the goats. Or the Three Little Pigs, then we ask children for suggestions for what could you make? Can you make the house out of pizza, or can you make the house out of marshmallows? So it's an interactive puppet show where we take suggestions from the kids.
While everybody's eating, let me run through a few things. First, let's talk about Serve. Janet and Serve have coordinated another curbside event to benefit our club. It's the end of April. I believe I passed one of these out to everybody, but what I would like is we'll make sure you get the information through an email, but please send it out to all your friends and family. Not just, if individually come by a dinner, but the more we spread this, the more participation we'll get. We made what, $900 and change the last time.
We made $950 plus an additional $70 in volunteer and just people donating. Oh, okay.
So if you have any questions, see Janet or I. They're taking this little flyer that I gave everybody. You didn't get one, I got more. And they're putting this in everybody's check that's eating here, okay, from now through till they do the event. We've done it twice. We did it for our club. And we did it, the last one was for the State Theater, I think. And both times the dinners were, we enjoyed, we got 2 meals out, okay? But this time they're not gonna do a salad, they're gonna do a dessert instead of a salad. So it'll be different. I think they were, Janet, do you know, I think they were talking about the pork loin again. I think, that was pretty good.
It was pulled pork last time. It was very good.
That was the first one, yeah, but they did pork loin, the one for the State Theater. Yeah, I can ask Walter, I just took a bite of beef, okay. Walt, you wanna, when you're done with that, you wanna talk about the awards committee meeting we had yesterday?
Yes. Found out that as a result of Terry Howe actually reaching out to two officers that were recognized as, not recognized, but were chosen as police officer of the year over the previous 2 years. The initial indication was that they weren't going to appear at the event that we were having on May 11th this year. Terry Howe, during the previous awards committee meeting, offered to reach out to those two officers because he felt it would be nice for our club to be able to at least see who they are, if not have them there. So he reached out to both of them. He also reached out to Chief Scalzo because it was Chief that, he originally spoke with these two officers, and they said they didn't want to take anything away from whoever the recipient is going to be for this year. So they decided that they weren't going to show up. As it turns out, Terry spoke with both of those officers. He also spoke with the chief, and my understanding now is that they're both going to show up, but they're not looking to be, overly recognized or go through a ceremony like we're going to be having on May 11th for the recipient this year. But they will be there, and I'll make sure that they're pointed out as the recipients from the previous years. It's going to be at the Pomfret Club at noon. The cost is going to be $23 a person. You can, and at this point, I've heard back from 8 of our members that plan to attend. You can either pay me the $23 sometime in advance, or you can get the money out to Gary. He's accepting the payments also. We also decided that actually we didn't officially decide. But I talked with the president of the Easton Emergency Squad last night at a meeting that we were both at. It's going to be on May 25th. I'm sorry, we did. The committee decided it's going to, that event is also going to be held at the Pomfret Club. Neil was going to talk to somebody down there to find out what the menu items were going to be and what the cost is going to be, and we were going to try to keep that around $23. So that's what I have. You want me to mention about the scholarships? Because that's
Or saying the right thing. But we're up in the air. The CIT scholarship, we're still not sure whether we can go there or not. If we don't, we'll probably do lunch here, either order off the menu or there was some mention of a pizza and salad lunch for everybody. So I'm not sure what that entails. We'll see when we find out. What else? Yeah, as long as we've interrupted your lunch, go ahead.
Now, with the SLPs last Thursday, Janet and Nick and I went to the Shawnee K-Kids program last Thursday. They have one more meeting. They're hoping that the rain holds off. It didn't hold off the last time, so this past Thursday, they were going to go out into the learning garden and paint some stakes where they're going to be putting questions on there. But basically, where this learning garden is very close to where the kindergartens are. So they were hoping that the teachers would bring the kindergarten kids out into this learning garden and be able to answer questions and go to these different stakes that are going to be planted around the area there with simple math problems, things like that. But they're also talking about doing planting of some things. So Mr. Ellison has asked us if any of our club members would be interested in purchasing and donating either any bushes or any perennial plants. That they could plant on May the, I forget what the date, I think it's May the 12th, I can't remember. It's May the 12th, okay. That's their last meeting, and their plan, providing it doesn't rain, is to go out there, put these stakes in, having them finish painting, and then also plant a couple trees that he has purchased, as well as any bushes or any perennial plants that the health club might decide to provide. That's Shawnee. I was very pleased to get an email from the faculty advisor, or the prior faculty advisor from Chestnut Elementary School. She reached out to me by email and said, asked whether our club would be interested in sponsoring the chest and K kids again, starting in the fall, for the fall semester. And I went ahead and said I was sure that we would. I already reached out to the principal and hadn't heard back from him at that point. But anyway, I'm going to be talking with her project ideas that we can do at chest in the starting in the fall. To get started early, possibly in August. Sometimes these K kids wouldn't get started till October, mid-October, late October, November. But she wants to get it started as quickly as possible. So I'm looking at possibly late August or even early September to have the chest and K kids on board again.
Yeah, sounds good, Walt. Thank you. One item that we talked about at Nicolosi's last week, maybe some people didn't hear me. That was a good way to follow up, and it worked out well. And apparently Nicolosi's has posted pictures on Facebook of his school restaurant at lunchtime. Apparently he did not mention that it was our Kiwanis club that was there. It was just his lunchtime crowd.
Good for them.
So that worked out. There was, I don't know if there's any interest in shirts again. We need at least one person to volunteer to work on shirt orders and to do that. So if there's anybody that's interested, let me know and we can get the information out to the club members. Okay, let that one go.
Let me ask a question about that. Would anybody be interested if we were able to just get iron-on or decals or embroidered Easton Kiwanis logos, and then you would put it under your own shirt, that you get whatever you want, you'd have to sew it on?
Or I guess the other thing would be if we just got the t-shirts, you know, I don't know. I mean, when we did the PDS 39 thing, we all had t-shirts, and it's kind of neat. You know, it has the information on it. So it's just something to think about. And if some people would like to work on it, let me know. Phillipsburg Kiwanis Club is having their anniversary next week. Sue and I were talking about going, but I don't know if we're going to be back. But they meet at, help me again. Soma over in Phillipsburg. They do a hors d'oeuvre buffet for $10. And I sent a note to them. I don't know if anybody's interested in joining their meeting like on next Tuesday night or not. If you are, let me know and I'll send you information. I'd like to go if we get back in time. We're going to be going. Let me know. I'll send an email to everybody with the information. Westward cleanup. Walt, did you want to take a bite of? Did you?
Yes, all right.
But that's going out to everybody, I think, right? That email, Bill, I think that everybody's seen that email.
Yes.
So,
Well, I'll elaborate on it. Andy Osetnik is a sergeant with the Easton Police Department. And he stopped over the other day to purchase one of our super raffle tickets. And he asked me if I thought our Kiwanis Club would like to get involved in a community project that he is also coordinating with of the, let me see, I'm just trying to think of how they characterize it. When I was on the job, it was called the community policing. I forget what it's called now, but it's the same type of thing. He's in that office now with Lieutenant Dan Bond. And they coordinate a lot of different activities between the police department and different community organizations. So he's offering our Kiwanis Club an opportunity to help do cleanup out in the West Ward. Interestingly enough, he's working with the coordinator who we recently had here as one of our presenters, Amy Bacadaro. So she's the contact person, and there's another person who I'm not familiar with, but those two are working with kind of coordinating the different areas of the West Ward that they're looking to do cleanup. So any of us are interested.
It's not for you, it's for Wall. I just want to get his attention for Neil. John's got his hand up. He wants to say something.
Okay.
I wanted to congratulate Bill on the high quality of the Zoom today, and especially the sound, which it seems to be able to pick up individuals over the entire room, and it's been very clear. And I wondered what Bill was using. Bill, I wondered what you were using for a mic to do that.
I'm using a separate desk mic that I have been using for my Zoom meeting. And I will try to tell you the name of it, if I can think of it. What I'll do is I'll send you an email.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'll send you an email.
But it's the best group quality that I have quite a bit of experience now with Zoom meetings, and this is the best group quality. Today is the best group quality sound that I've seen. So thank you.
And how are you, John?
I've got about 30 more days of lockdown, and the last infusion is a week from tomorrow. The last chemo infusion. That's phase 1, but the phase 2 is pretty easy. But the what was I going to say? My last PET scan, and some of you may be very familiar with that, was completely clear. So thank you.
Well, it's good. It's nice to see you join us every week too, John.
Mr. President, as long as we're commending Bill Walters, I think we need to commend him on the electronic form that he created. It's amazing. It's awesome. It covers everything. You can fill in the blanks without issue what you want to do. The only issue I had is I couldn't buy all 200 tickets because $20,000 wouldn't fit on the side.
Can you fix that, Bill?
Yeah, I can. Just type with smaller type.
I'm guessing he probably spent 12 hours doing that, but
Yeah.
at the first he had problems with the blanks and he purchased some new software or something. But it's great. It's just, it covers everything. Well done, and let's commend Bill for that. So,
Tell you what you can do for me. Make sure the tickets sell out early.
What we've done, or we're doing, who will coordinate this with our club? I mean, how do we do that?
I would suggest you just click on the link. Unfortunately, I told Andy when he told me the date, I said, I'm committed to going to a court of honor for an Eagle Scout that big project over at our church. And I got invited and I planned to attend. Matter of fact, I reached out to Chad Chase, who was involved with the Vinci Trail Scouting for many years without recognizing this young man on my behalf, because my invitation. So I would prefer that you just go on the link and reach out to either Amy back at Wackadoro or that other person. Because I don't know if Andy's actually included as far as coordinating. He just asked me if I thought our club would be involved. And he sent me a link by email, and then I sent it to Bill asking he sent it out to our members, because I don't have email addresses for all of our members, and I'm also having problems recently with having them hacked. And I'm trying not to infect anybody else.
When you sign up that way, just make sure you identify yourself as a member of Easton Kiwanis. Well, Nick, you've kind of led us into the super raffle. Bill, Joanne, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I think I got everybody in this room except Kathy.
Did you get me?
Yep, so I got everybody else with tickets, so Kathy, see me after.
Okay.
And I'll award you tickets.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to see the online digital? I could put a couple of these down each side of the page.
And please try to send this, email your friends, and, let's, like Bill said, let's try to sell out early, so next year we can expand this to like 300 tickets, right, Bill?
Yeah.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Pass it down.
When I take a picture of you, Joanne, I want to make sure that we have a picture of you with your fun, because
Yeah.
next year you'll be pulling your hair out.
I know.
Well, actually, what we've done for many years, several members would say, can you give me a digital copy of the ticket? So I used to take the front and the back of the ticket, put it on one image. And then you can mail it out to your personal friends and tell them what do you want to do. And that's how a large portion of my 25 or so tickets are sold every year. I send out emails. The guy sends me his $200 or whatever he's buying back and tells me what he wants to do. They'll print out a copy of it and they'll write it in and they'll email it back to me. And I just tell them, here's your ticket number in an email. So in reality, Joanne can tell you, a lot of my tickets are filled out by me based upon an email that I got back. Now, this digital one that I just created will use Nick's Venmo or my Venmo, because the state of Pennsylvania, in their infinite wisdom, they're ruled by, when it comes to get small games of chance, they're literally ruled by the casinos themselves. So the small games of chance have no way of illegally getting payments via electronic methods or even credit cards. As a result, Nick's or myself would get an email back with the form filled out, and then they're actually buying the ticket. I'm buying it on their behalf because they me the money. So it's how we're getting around the small game of chance. Is a small game of chance going to do anything about it? No. Kevin Thomas said he didn't even know it was a rule in Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania Kiwanis is doing it for over 2 years. And he said, but we never asked. Well, we had the DA as a member, so I don't want to get us in trouble. So that's why I came up with this. Nick and I talked about it, and Sarni Brewster's the one that kind of really got it going on this. Why don't you do it electronically? We all know that have been to our Zoom meetings when we weren't having in-person meetings, how many people from around the United States came to our meetings online. Well, I've got the same way of sending that in out, because I will post this on Easton Kiwanis' website, Facebook page. It'll get forwarded to the Pennsylvania Kiwanis' Facebook page. It'll go on to Kiwanis International if they let me, under their page. That's how it spreads. And if you send it out, whether you do the electronic one or whether you do the other kind, if you send it out to 20 people in your book, your personal connections on electronic media, and ask them to send it out to all the friends they know. That's how it happens. I'd love to find out that we're out of tickets before people who wanted them said we're going to buy them.
Sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to ask how are we going to be doing the checks? Going to be individual checks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have we get together, and then you're all do it together. Anyone else going to have?
We're together.
No. Perfect. I'll be right back. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. So yeah, push the tickets. We're we need to start building our reserves up again, and that'll, help us in the future and CERT donation, gets, back in, with some money in the treasury. Miracle League, I understand, Roger, you're all booked up already, huh?
Yes, we are booked up for June the 4th, I believe.
We're doing the morning.
You're doing the morning and we're doing the afternoon, so it's gonna be Kiwanis Day. I have 5 people working with me in the afternoon when they leave. Myself, my wife, Scott, Walt, and
Al Rutherford.
who's the other one? Oh, both.
Al Rutherford.
So we have a great group in the afternoon, and they're doing twice, 2 dates they had, and I didn't realize it when I talked to the people at the Miracle League, that they were gonna do it twice, and then the morning was open on June the 4th for 2 more people. They told me it was booked. So we could have gotten that too, with 2 more Kiwanians in there.
There was a lady that went through and just put her name down on a lot of different dates.
Okay.
So it was a random person.
So I want everybody who is gonna help me, I'm booked up if we need any help. I have a backup list of people, let's see. One is shirt, notify you by the time and the date when we get closer to June the 4th. But it looks like a great Kiwanis Day out of the Miracle League.
Janet, are you guys filled up yet? Janet, or no?
We had 3 spots in there, but I had at least one other spot that we could probably take. I don't think anybody else is.
No, I mean, do you need volunteers yet for the spots that you do have?
No,
Okay.
no, because Chris is gonna do.
Okay.
But there was one other spot available, so I mean, if somebody else sent it, they wanted it. It's one of the additional spots. No, that's on the, no. Not the first one, but the second, it's the one where Roger is.
June 4th.
June 4th, it's a Saturday, yeah.
Okay.
We're doing the opening day.
Yeah, they're doing the first day.
Okay.
And BJ is gonna be there, so we might see BJ.
We're gonna critique this hot dog.
Okay.
He's fun to be from Rotary.
We don't get that. Let's see. I don't know. Could be Apple. Shirts. There was one thing that I think you got, Bill, that I want to talk to the P-Bird Club about, the pedals for progress.
Oh, yeah.
I want to get more information, and I'll present that to the club at some point. We got a lot going on right now.
The speaker that could speak last week is
Yes.
willing to speak on April 27th if we're able.
I changed the reservation, so yeah, that speaker will be here on the 27th.
Kelly Joseph from the National Center for Mental Illness will be here on the 27th. And next week will be Steve Doster and a retired military general speaking about the importance of supporting early care and education in terms of how it impacts national security. They'll be joining us by Zoom, but we can be here.
Anything from the newsletter? That's all I have right now. Anybody else in the floor? We're busy.
What about the psychic meeting?
We're looking at rescheduling them.
May 18th.
We're looking at May 18th.
May 18th. We're not sure what time of day or the location. Might be here after the meeting.
Yeah, well,
Or-
yeah, we're trying to, well, it depends on what we can get. I would like Sarah to be part of that too. I'll talk 1 minute about nominations. Okay, we've got James for president. We're looking at, we're not sure whether Sarni has agreed to run for president-elect. Terry will be running for vice president. We had, of course, we've got Bill for secretary, Gary for treasurer, and the 2 board openings, the committee has nominated Walt and and Sarah for those positions. I mean, if there's, and that's the slate that's going to be put forward by the club. We're always open to nominations from the floor, and if there's more than that on the day of the election, we'll hold a secret ballot election at that. So that's the way we're going to handle that. We have discovered, right, Bill, that our bylaws say we should only have 3 board members, not 5, which we've had for quite some time, but we think that we changed the bylaws one year that we wanted it to read minimum of 3.
And it just says by 3.
But we thought, you know, I think we agreed that the level of. Pizza, still hungry. But anyway, we'll figure a date for the election sometime in May, correct, Bill? I think
Yes.
that's what we did. We'll do the elections in May. And we'll announce what meeting where that's gonna be. So that's that on that, and I just happy to say it's great to see everybody. I'm not sure how we'll handle the meetings once we get to June, whether how we'll do it. It probably won't be here every week. You get people on vacation, we may do some on Zoom. The weather gets nice, we might even do some at the park again. So we'll have to look and see what people are interested in, but obviously we have, I don't know, I didn't do a count. What do we got, 20 people
Barb.
today?
Barb,
We have 20 total.
Yeah, we have
19
20
members
people
and our
showed up
speaker.
here, so that is, this is as many people as we ever have, so. And we only have one on Zoom today, but we will continue to do the Zoom.
Yeah.
It works. Bill does a good job with it. He doesn't mind, thanks to him, and
I don't have to shower the day I do my Zoom, so because I sit away from everybody.
so we'll continue to do that. If anybody's got any other ideas, we're always open to, open to new ideas. Good to see everybody. Good to see Scott back. Sell your tickets.
Nice to have Ken back in person too.
That's nice now.
That's right.
Mr. Maluba over there is.
Yeah, that's right. He's back too. Well, they were. Ken made the pizza place last week. I don't remember. You were at Nicolosi's last week.
Yeah, I'm going, so if anybody wanted to.
Janet and James are going to represent us at the international convention.
We're going
They will be our delegates.
National, we're registered.
These are good because no change we have.
That's that. We'll see everybody next week.
All right, I will turn off the Zoom.